point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week again, our 295th edition.
Getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Got a big party at 300.
Well, I don't know where that party's going to be. We'll have to figure that out. But this is our 295th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey. That's me, and the amazing Tom Fennell, who's sitting over here outside.
In the flesh?
Oh, he's inside. There he is. In the flesh. Tom is my engineer, and he's not only a studio engineer, he's also a transmission line engineer, or
something like that.
Something along those lines. I am a computer engineer, which means that I do everything badly. Oh, I'm sorry. I do everything, but I do it badly. Okay. So anyway, every day I post a blog post at my blog called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. And that blog post contains 10 to 15 articles, each one a synopsis with a link to the original article. And if you go to that website, geoharvey.com, and you go to the calendar, which is in the upper left part of the screen, you can click on the date, which Tom and I will try to keep you apprised of, so that you can read the article, except for the first one we're going to talk about today, because it won't work.
Duh.
Well, you know, every day I do these things, and I try to make sure that the articles actually will work for the people who get on there. And what I do is I click on a search, for example, which takes me to the article, and I do a search that takes me to the article, and then if I don't recognize the name of the article as one of the name of the source is one of the sources that I know people can just go to, which are surprising sometimes. The New York Times, for example, and Forbes are
they count how many times you use it, and after a while they want
some
money.
of them count, and some of them, you know what? I just made a mistake here. Well, hopefully that'll come up again. Well, you know what the thing is doing is it's telling me that it wants to reboot. And so we may lose the video, the pictures. What can I say? It's computers. As a computer engineer, I can tell you, it's not artificial intelligence, it's artificial malice.
Built in, huh?
Built in. Anyway, what happened is with the Australian Financial Review, when I go to the other computer and use the same URL, I get there. But then somebody coming later will find that it's blocked.
Well, I couldn't get this one.
Yeah, the Reformer does the same thing. Brattleboro
they
Reformer. They want you to be a subscriber if you're going to get anything that's older than a week, and so that's a problem. Anyway, the first article that we've got, and I'm showing
a picture here.
Is from the Australian Financial Review, and unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get any more information from the article than we're telling you, because the article is just not easily available. But anyway, Tom, what is the title?
South Australia's big battery slashes $40 million from grid control costs in the first year. I don't know if that's 40 million Australian dollars or 40 million American dollars.
Well, that would be 40 million Australian.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but it would be about 30 million US dollars. And this well, let me read the blurb. This is on December 6th. South Australia's big battery outperformed expectations for its first year, saving almost $40 million in grid stabilization costs, helping prevent blackouts, generally restoring confidence in the energy supply, according to its backer, Neoen.
So it's doing more than just saving a little bit of energy.
Oh yeah.
It's got frequency control
Yeah.
things, you know,
It's
little
saving-
things, but they add up. And these are services for which the utility company pays a lot of money.
A lot of money. As a matter of fact, the grid stabilization costs in that part of Australia have declined by 90% because
I
of
can
the
believe
battery.
that. I can believe
These
that.
costs are extremely high. People don't realize what happens when all of a sudden there's, we're in a supply and demand situation. And if the demand is there and the supply disappears, all of a sudden the price goes up. And because this is supplied on a 5-minute to 5-minute basis, in some parts of the world anyway, if there's no supply, the demand goes through the roof. The cost goes through the roof. And in Australia, there is a law that says you cannot charge more than $14 Australian, which is about 10.5 US, for a kilowatt hour of battery. Of electricity.
Huh? That's cheap.
$10.40 per kilowatt hour.
Oh, $10. I was thinking about 10 cents.
Yeah, this is approximately 100
Wow.
times as much as most Americans pay. It's 50 times as much as I pay for cow power in Vermont, and that's also a wholesale price. Mm-hmm. And what happens, of course, when the price goes up that far, all of a sudden everybody who can produce electricity wants to dump it on the grid. As soon as they can get themselves stabilized on the grid so that they're synchronized, they dump the power onto the grid, and the price of the power goes down again. And this kind of spike usually doesn't last more than a few minutes, but it's very costly.
Well, one of the things that this thing is doing is frequency control.
Yes.
And that is very, very important. I mean, 60 cycles, there's so many cycles in a day.
Yes.
And they have to pretty much guarantee
That's
that
right.
many cycles.
That's
and
right.
there's a lot of industrial clocks that depend upon those 50 cycles to make the machinery work right.
That's
so
right.
This,
That's
this
exactly
is not
right.
something playing around.
Yeah.
And there's also something that happens is that as you use more energy compared to your capacity, the chances of the frequency going down increases.
Yep.
Okay.
And if there is too much capacity, and
The frequency
compared to-
goes up.
the frequency goes up.
So it's very important to these guys.
So what you have to do is try to balance those two. And baseload power, the idea that we need baseload power and we don't need anything else is complete and total mythology. It's just plain wrong.
Well, it's far more complicated than that statement.
Actually, if you think about it, Tom, if we only had baseload power plants, the grid would fail.
There wouldn't even be a grid at all. Probably.
Exactly. There wouldn't be a grid at all because there'd be no way of matching demand and supply. You have to match demand and supply. On the other hand, if we had a 100% renewable grid in which everything except batteries and pump storage and hydro was coming from intermittent power sources like solar and wind, we'd be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But we can't do it on baseload alone. Mm-hmm. And
Interesting development.
yeah.
Well, we're really watching from a distance a real change in the way we use electricity.
Oh yeah.
The way we produce
Absolutely.
it, the way we distribute
Really?
it. The grid as we know it will not exist in another 50 years. Shorter than that, really. There still will be a grid, but it's going to be very much
It's going to be
distributed.
different.
Yeah.
It's and in my own family, my family has a kind of a background on this because my who was he? My grandfather
Yeah.
was the first person in the town that he was in to have electricity.
Wow.
And the way he did it, he had a farm and he had a hardware store, so he had a bunch of employees and he had a little bit of money. And the way that he did this was he had batteries that supplied electricity to the house, and he had a farm guy who changed the solution in the batteries. That's how they charged the batteries. By changing the solution.
Oh, it was copper sulfate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, but that's how they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did. They changed the solution.
Yeah, we should get
These
going.
These
here.
were huge batteries.
They were
too.
big batteries, and my Uncle Charlie, my great Uncle Charlie, was this was my I guess this was my great-grandfather. My great-uncle Charlie had quite a lot of fun shutting the electric power off in the house as a prank. At just the time, the guest who happened to be a soprano was singing "Let There Be Light," the power goes out. Okay, so anyway, we are next
Moving right
going
along.
to, this is still December 6th, we're going to an item from Clean Technica.
Volkswagen phasing out conventional vehicles. May build cars at Ford factories in the U.S. That's interesting.
Isn't it? At an industry conference in Germany, Volkswagen said it is working on the last generation of conventional cars with internal combustion engines. It also hinted that it may manufacture some cars jointly with Ford at that company's U.S. factories.
Well, there's a backstory there, too. From the article, the end of the line for gas mobiles.
Yeah.
All future Volkswagens will feature an electric motor as part of the drivetrain. So some of them are going to be fully electric, some of them are going to be hybrids, but they're all going to have an electric motor involved.
Right.
Okay, and
Right.
a partnership with Ford is also interesting because, like General Motors, Ford is backing out of passenger car manufacturing in the USA and has some excess capacity available in its U.S. factories.
Yes.
They're just going to be making SUVs and pickup trucks here.
Did I include an item this week about Tesla market capitalization?
I don't think you did.
I didn't think I did. This is a place to kind of mention that. Tesla's market capitalization is bigger than GM's or Ford's.
Is it really?
Yes.
I'll be damned.
And the various people who are analysts are saying we're heading for a recession, and GM in particular is not ready with electric vehicles.
No, they're
And
sitting back there. They're going to get stuck.
Yeah,
So
and
Ford, really.
there was a rumor going on that Tesla was going to buy a GM plant from GM.
No kidding.
And the
Wow.
the analyst who was writing about this said he thought it was just as likely that Tesla would buy GM outright.
Huh. And you're saying the market capitalization was
Market
permitted to do it.
capitalization of Tesla has actually risen above that of, I think it was BMW. It is Tesla, if you measure by market capitalization, Tesla is the biggest car manufacturer in the United States.
Just for our viewers and for me, what is market capitalization?
It is, you take the number of shares of stock outstanding
Yeah.
and you multiply that times the cost of the stock.
Okay. Simple.
That's
simple
simple.
math.
Now, a lot of people would say GM and Ford are underpriced, Tesla is overpriced, that's why that's happening. But even so, Tesla has more market capitalization than GM or Ford.
Interesting.
Okay, we're up to an item from Irish Times, and I think there's a
We got a picture here.
picture here.
See if I can get that picture up. It would be helpful. There it is.
There it is.
It's coming, folks.
There it is.
It's some sheeps
That's
grazing, I think, in Ireland.
Yes, it is. It's
But
supposed
it
to
may
be
be in
anyway.
Poland. I don't know.
No, I don't think that's Poland.
I think that's Ireland, too.
Yeah.
A lot of sheep. Increasing fossil fuel use pushes carbon emissions to record high. Now, that's kind of at variance with what we've been hearing, isn't it?
Well, what's happening is we're kind of hitting peaks, and, well, let me read this first. Increasing coal, oil, and gas use are pushing global carbon emissions to an all-time high. Climate scientists have told the UN climate talks in Katowice, Poland. Did I get that
Yeah,
pronunciation
you're pretty
right?
close.
They said Tom knows everything about pronouncing things in
I
Polish.
look them up.
I can pronounce English as an American. I can pronounce
You can do a
German.
little bit of
kind
Welsh.
I can actually pronounce Welsh is easy.
I bet
It
is.
really is.
Once you realize the rules.
Once you know the rules, absolutely
Just like
easy.
Irish. I mean,
Yeah, Irish. These are rational languages. There's like one major exception in Welsh. Okay, they said a projected rise in global emissions of more than 2% has happened due to growth in use of coal and other fossil fuels.
Well, emissions have risen for a second year after 3 years of little to no growth.
Yep.
So something's happening here.
Well, what's happening, I think, is largely in Indonesia, Malaysia, China, India. Anytime you open a coal-burning power plant or a natural gas plant, you're driving emissions up.
Yeah, and that stuff is happening in these
It
countries.
is, but in the
As
United
they
States,
electrify.
yeah, we're going to hear more about this. Okay.
Well, I got a list of the 10 biggest emitters, but I think I'll skip that.
Okay.
Friday,
now we've
December
got
7th.
December 7th, yes, and this is an item from CNN.
And this is unusual from CNN because it doesn't have a video attached. And they usually have a pretty nice little
They
video.
usually do, and it kind of takes over my machine because it's downloading.
Yeah.
And the downloading speed in Brattleboro is not very fast.
Well, let's go to work on this guy.
Okay.
Human-induced climate change makes heat waves 30 times more likely.
Yep.
Wow.
Human-induced climate change has made the UK's record-breaking 2018 summer heat wave about 30 times more likely than under normal conditions. The country's meteorological body, I pronounced that right, it's the first time all day, has said the summer of 2018 was the UK's hottest on record.
Well, according to this article, the UK now has an approximately 12% chance of average summer temperatures being as high as they were in 2018.
So they've got a 12% chance of meeting
The
the
2018,
record-breaking year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that tells you something.
That's a good explanation.
Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we go on. We got a nice picture
We
coming
do
up
have a
here.
nice
I
picture.
like this picture. This
Yeah.
is cool.
Okay, this is from the BBC.
And that is a greater sage grouse. That's
Yeah,
a neat
well,
looking little bird.
thought
Looks,
the greater
looks like a turkey.
I
But
thought,
it's much smaller.
yeah, I thought a greater sage grouch was that grouse was that nurse who took care of us when we were little. Greater sage grouch was.
Grouch,
what she was.
yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
Trump's environmental rollback rolls on.
The Trump administration rollback continues to target rules. The Interior Department unveiled plans to allow oil drilling on millions of acres that have been off limits to protect the greater sage grouse, got it right that time, and the EPA said it would end rules limiting carbon emissions on new coal plants.
Well, I don't know much about the greater sage grouse, so I looked it up, and
Yeah.
I'll mention a couple of sentences about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
The greater sage grouse is a chicken-like bird known for its striking plumage and mating dances. I think it makes some kind of a bumping noise with its throat. You
Yep.
know, you're looking around, what's knocking, and it's
Yeah.
this bird.
Yeah.
Less than 500,000 of these birds remain, making the species threatened.
Yes.
Last month, Trump dismissed a report by his own government warning of future devastating economic consequences to the U.S. from climate change. I don't believe it, the president told reporters.
He said he had read part of it.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't say that he got past the title page. Okay.
Well, the Sabin Center for Climate Change Law at Columbia Law School is tracking the Trump administration's rollback of environmental regulations.
Mm-hmm.
It's currently running at more than 100 entries.
Wow.
He's doing a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Well, let's move along here.
Okay, we have an item here from NPR.
It is from NPR. California gives final okay to require solar panels on new houses.
Requiring
Very interesting thing happening
development,
there.
yes. Solar panels will be a required feature on new houses in California after the state's Building Standards Commission gave final approval to a housing rule that is the first of its kind in the United States. The new standard includes incentives for batteries and is set to take effect in 2020. We should mention, not all houses are required to have this.
Well, if you're in the shade, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. If you're in the shade, you don't have to have. But you know, they could have said you're not allowed to build in the shade.
Well, this apparently is quite a popular proposal here in California.
Yeah.
And it's going to raise the cost of a house by about 10 grand. But you're going to save money.
Yes.
You're going to recoup it in a few years. So.
Yes.
And here's what you were just saying. The standard includes an exemption for houses that are often shaded from the sun And it also includes incentives for people to add a high-capacity battery to store the sun's energy.
Right.
So it's a pretty good law. Sounds like a good law.
As those batteries get more common, they will stabilize the entire grid.
Yes, as we've already spoken.
Which means that everybody saves money. You put solar on your roof, you put a battery in your battery shed, and the whole neighborhood saves money.
Well, this is what we're talking about. New homes that are built under these standards are expected to use 53% less energy.
Yep.
That's half.
Yep.
That's a significant saving.
It is, and we are up to Saturday, December 8th.
And we got a picture here.
We've got a silly picture. Put up the silly picture.
I'm trying to. There we go.
There it is. Those are batteries, folks. They are. And they're batteries just like the batteries that they put into Tesla, except that you don't see them in your Tesla.
Yeah, the big Tesla batteries is thousands of these little guys. It really is.
Yes, that's right.
Envision Energy says EV battery cell costs will fall below $50 per kilowatt hour by 2025. And you're going to explain to
I
us
was really
what
kind of
$50 means.
I was a little shaken up when I saw this. I said, "What? $50? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, that goes against what I've learned about these things. That's a significant.
Well, this came from Clean Technica. At the Stanford Global Energy Forum, Lei Zhang, founder and CEO of Shanghai-based Envision Energy, made an extraordinary pronouncement. He said the cost of manufacturing EV batteries would fall below $100 per kilowatt hour, a disruptive price by 2020, and that it would fall to $50 per kilowatt hour by 2025. And I want people to understand, I've actually seen in print, a reporter say, they're talking about $250 per kilowatt hour for these batteries. Just think about how expensive that is. The electricity is only worth a dime.
It's the same units, but it's a very different measurement.
It's like saying this 5,000 gallon tank truck is carrying it costs $250,000, and the water that it's carrying only is worth,
That's a good analogy.
Because you're talking about
this is the cost to build.
This is the cost of the equipment to store the power. And years ago, I don't remember how many, I read that a certain amount of money per kilowatt hour, and I honestly can't remember whether it was $200 or $250 per kilowatt hour of batteries for the cost of battery storage would be disruptive to the grid.
Okay.
The cost would be disruptive.
Okay.
The battery's not disruptive, the cost
is.
And the reason is because when the price of batteries falls to that point, people start to say, wait a minute, if we can store energy that comes from solar and wind power that cheaply in equipment that is that cheap, why would we build a natural gas power plant?
Good point.
And we've got absolutely clear evidence that that's exactly what's happening right now in the United States.
Well, the article says when the price for EV battery cells falls below $100 per kilowatt hour, electric cars will become price competitive with conventional cars, and the EV revolution will go into hyperdrive.
Yeah, well, it's, I think, already going into hyperdrive. We talked last week, I think it was last week, about a natural gas power plant in California that was going to be shut down. It was only 13 years old.
We talked about that one.
And it was a big plant. It was over 500 megawatts. And it was being shut down because of a 500 plus megawatt battery that was being put up in its place in order to keep costs down for customers. And when that happens,
talk about exactly, yeah, exactly.
This is we're at the point of disruption. We are at the point where the fossil fuel companies that are pushing this idea that renewables don't work or can't work or are intermittent, so forget it. They're going to have to come up with new music to, for that.
Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but they're talking out of both sides of their face.
It's true.
They really are.
Okay. Should we go on? Or do you want to have
No, I think we got another one to talk about.
Okay.
Solar overtakes fossil fuels for the first time.
Whoa. Digital Journal. And again, we've got technical stuff to explain here. Data indicate that renewable energy production is growing faster than fossil fuels, and multiple studies predict that the trend will continue to grow. Renewable energy investments grew to $297 billion in 2016.
Investments now.
Huh?
That's investments.
That's investments. In 2016, while only 143 billion, which is obviously slightly less than half of that,
half as much there, yeah.
was spent on fossil fuels and nuclear power combined. Now,
The times they are changing, aren't
yes.
they?
Now, there's a whole lot here. You can, you know, if you're thinking about solar being intermittent, well, we just talked about batteries, and so you can kind of, okay, it's true, but you know, that doesn't mean that it's out of the ballpark. The other thing is people say, well, solar power has got a low capacity compared to nuclear. I mean, a solar plant might have 17% capacity factor where nuclear will have 90. So the nuclear is like 5 times as valuable in terms of the capacity that.
Well, not with batteries, though.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the big difference.
that is a big difference, but the other thing here is solar power, when you put in $1 billion worth of solar power and $1 billion worth of nuclear power, you're going to get more than 5 or 7 times as much capacity out of the solar than you would out of the nuclear.
Well, we know the nuclear plants are expensive to build.
Nuclear plants, if you want a gigawatt, you're probably going to spend $12 billion. For $12 billion, you can probably get 15 gigawatts of solar.
You get a lot of solar.
Yeah, a lot of solar. So, you know, and we're back to batteries again.
Well, talking about batteries, let's take a look at another kind of battery.
Another kind of battery. And
Okay.
I will not apologize for the fact that this picture is so green.
Well, that's pretty much what they look like, though.
Yeah, these are little batteries.
Storage batteries, a whole bunch of little batteries
Yeah.
inside, basically, containers.
Yeah, they're
These aren't shipping containers, but many times that's what they use.
they use shipping containers. These are just containers that happen to be in a shed someplace. But here is an item which comes from Clean Technica.
U.S. energy storage project pipeline doubles to nearly 33 gigawatts in 2018. Now that's a lot. That's a lot
of
juice.
gigawatts. Okay.
It's not a gigawatt, but it's a lot of gigawatts.
Yeah. The U.S. energy storage project pipeline has doubled in 2018, reaching an impressive 32.9 gigawatts, according to the latest energy storage monitor published by Wood Mackenzie Power and Renewables and the Energy Storage Association. And you know,
the pipeline is what's being built.
Being built.
And they know about it.
Yeah, they know that it's being built.
So it's on the way.
It's on the way. And, you know, again, what we were talking about just a minute ago about a natural gas plant,
Yeah.
that natural gas plant was half a gigawatt, and it was replaced by half a gigawatt of battery storage.
This is the one in California.
One in
Yep.
California. And it's, you know, the numbers are actually much more complicated than that, but nevertheless, that's basically what it was. And that plant, by the way, is 5 times as big as the biggest battery in the world, and it is a chemical battery. I'm not including pumped storage. And its energy capacity, which is 2,200 and something megawatt hours, as I recall, that's pretty impressive. That's a lot of energy that thing will store. But it's replacing a natural gas plant of the same size in terms of the power that it's delivering. Here we're talking about 33 gigawatts of battery, and that's the equivalent of about 33 nuclear power plants.
So nuclear power plants running around a gigawatt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
generally. And we
One here in Vernon was what, 600?
it was originally 520
half a
or something
gigawatt.
like that. Yeah, every time I look at the numbers, they change. And it's because I'm looking in different places, but you know, they're a little inconsistent.
But it was
about
a little more than a half a gigawatt.
Yeah. The new nuclear power, we've only got 2 nuclear power plants under construction in the United States.
Well, as we already said, they're expensive.
Yeah. I should say 2 nuclear reactors. They're at one plant.
They're at the same plant.
Yeah.
this Vodal?
This is Vodal, and then there was also Belafonte. There was the TVA decided to sell a Belafonte plant that was partly constructed. It had 2 reactors. One, I think, was 80% done, and the other was 40%. I forget the exact numbers. One of them was mostly done. The other one was roughly half done, to a private investor, and that sale fell through and is resulting in a lawsuit because the investor had failed to get transfer the building permits, which it needed from.
That sounds crazy.
From the, why would he do this? And then when they say we can't sell this to you if you don't have the building permits, he says, I'm going to sue you. Well, if that's the way he's going to be, I would expect that if they sold him the thing without the building permits, he'd sue them then, because he,
That might have been his plan.
Might have been. Yeah, okay. So we are up to Sunday, December 9th, and we've got an item, believe it or not, from the New Yorker.
Coal for Christmas at the UN Climate Conference.
Yeah,
this is interesting.
They had a good cartoon here, and the only reason I didn't include it was because it didn't fit a TV screen. At the COP24 convention pavilions, delegates found mounds of coal displayed behind glass like
Objet d'art.
Objet d'art. I can pronounce
d'art.
Welsh, but I can't pronounce French. I never learned French. It's one of the horrible failures of my education. And arrangements of coal-based cosmetics and coal-encrusted jewelry. For some, the coal-stuffed climate summit is completely absurd. One put it as beyond parody, with those 2 words in quotes.
Well, that was just part of the sideshow. What he was really interested in is unveiling 2 schemes promoting fossil fuels. Okay? He's in love with fossil fuels, obviously.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He didn't go to the thing, but he had his representatives there talking about beautiful, clean coal.
Yeah. Well, the United Nations Secretary General said at the COP's opening session, that's the climate conference.
Yes.
It's hard to comprehend why we are collectively still moving too slowly and even in the wrong direction.
Yes. Well,
so he knows what's going on.
Yeah, he knows what's going on in terms of the amount of money that he's getting from somebody to pay for the election campaigns for the people who support him.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
More on COP24 because the next item is on the same
this is from
thing.
BBC.
From the BBC, COP24 fails to adopt key scientific report. Now, this is kind of newsworthy.
It is, and in fact, it's already happened. The COP24 is still going, and the
they're still arguing
head
about
of the UN went there and said, "Wait a minute, this is suicide." When it was released in October, the IPCC report, which we basically, report impacts of temperature rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius had a significant impact. Scientists and many COP24 delegates were shocked as the US, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Kuwait objected to the meeting welcoming, in quotes, the report, and reference to it was dropped.
They couldn't agree on that. So
they couldn't agree that the meeting would welcome the report.
Yeah.
What they wanted to do was note the report, which means that they're free to disagree with it.
Yeah. Well,
now
they disagree with it anyhow.
Yeah, but we've got a bunch of reports coming out. The federal government, headed by Donald Trump, has made a series of reports saying, "Hey, gang, we're in trouble."
But they're hiding them.
No, they're not hiding them. They're letting them out.
They're letting them out, but
they're not. They're denying them. The federal government releases a report. The IPCC report was one of them, and they say, oh no, the IPCC wasn't federal, but the federal government has released several reports, different agencies, and Donald Trump says, well, I've looked at them, but I don't believe them.
Yeah.
So the fact that he doesn't believe something is sufficient for him to say we're not going to deal with that. And
this is from the report. It had said that the world is now completely off track
Yes.
heading more towards 3 degrees Celsius this century rather than 1.5 C,
Yes.
which we've talked about here on the show.
Right.
Efforts to find compromised language failed.
Now, I want to point out this horrible summer that we just talked about
Not just
earlier
here.
in this show
Yeah.
in Britain, which also we
In
had problems in
California.
the United States with huge
France.
fires in California. There were problems in
Portugal.
yeah, all over the
Fires
world.
everywhere.
They're everywhere, and it's not just fires. It's droughts, and they had fires, springtime fires during the wet season in Australia, and
Never happens.
you know that's 1 degree.
Yeah.
Now what we're talking about is
It's 3.
let's multiply that by 3.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Should we go on?
Yeah, this is a good one. We got a picture coming
got
up
a
here
picture
too,
here
don't
that's
we?
very
Yeah, this
scary.
is a neat picture.
It's a very scary picture.
Well, I would say that the eagle looks a little pissed off.
I would say I wouldn't want to be as close to either of those animals as that photographer was. And certainly, the 2 animals must know each other for this photograph to have happened. This photograph came from the USDA, which is the Department of Agriculture. And,
Yeah.
and it was taken in Alaska.
I'm going to put the picture back up.
Yeah, put it back up. And you know, have you ever been near a bear in the wild?
I hit one once.
You hit one
Yeah.
with your fist?
No, with a car. And he rolled over and took off like I never saw anything move so fast.
I hit a deer once, and it did basically the same thing. But here, you know, you've got. I've seen bears. In fact, I saw one on Canal Street.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
About a year ago, Tad Montgomery and I were wandering around over there, and there was a bear right at the Canal Street School, and in the parking lot behind the school.
I'll be darned.
And I called the police, and you know, other people had
Bear
too.
didn't have a permit.
The bear didn't have a permit?
Yeah.
No, the bear didn't have a permit. And the police sent up about 5 cars, and you know, there were a bunch of cops, and they all were armed with shotguns.
Oh boy.
And they walked into those woods making a whole lot of noise. And the bear gradually kind of said,
Bear
I'm
took
not
off, huh?
really interested in dealing with these people. They're too noisy. But the cops needed the shotguns, not because they wanted to shoot the bear, but in case
In
something
case
went
something
wrong.
happened, yeah.
But they drove the bear out of town, you know, and they didn't have to tar and feather it. They just drove it out
Just
of town.
bye bear. Bye bear.
Yeah. Anyway, so
This was Trump's Great American Forest Liquidation Sale.
this is from Truth Out. Logging Alaska's mature stand could exacerbate climate change. It could cripple Southeast Alaska's recreation, tourism, and salmon fishing industries. But the state's governor petitioned the U.S. Forest Service to remove protection from the Southeast Alaska's Tongass National Forest.
This is a long and interesting article, and this is well worth reading. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yep.
Now, Tongass is the largest national forest in the U.S.,
Yes.
okay? Most of it is part of the Pacific Temperate Rain Ecoforest region, or rainforest ecoregion, and home to many species of endangered rare flora and fauna. Tongass is pretty much all of that little piece of Alaska that projects down to the south into Canada.
Yeah, which Juneau is in. It's Alaska's
Juneau,
panhandle.
Sitka, Ketchikan, some of the
Yeah.
biggest cities in Alaska are there.
But it's the
And this
Alaskan
is almost
panhandle.
all national park.
Yeah,
So they have room for 3 cities.
it's beautiful territory.
I bet it is. I bet it really is.
Yeah. Okay, should we move on?
I think I read all I was going to about
Okay.
that. So let's
We are up to
and
Monday.
I left a picture up there, so we're going to have
Okay.
to say goodbye to the bear.
Bye, bear. Bye, bald eagle.
And we got another bald eagle there.
Not an eagle, just bald. You know,
This
it's
is
one of
from-
those funny things. When you reach to a certain age, the hair stops growing here and starts growing
Amazing.
here.
I wonder how that happened.
I don't know.
Yeah. This was from Monday, December 10th, and it says Trump's coal event overshadowed at COP20. More about COP24.
Well, COP24 is important. You know, the
It's still on.
Paris Climate Agreement was COP21.
Yeah, yeah.
This is from the BBC. An event endorsed by the White House is promoting the use of fossil fuels at COP24, but green campaigners are likely to be Green campaigners are likely cheered by news that 415 investors managing assets worth about $32 trillion are calling for greater action on climate change and an end to coal as a source of energy.
So these investors are not individuals.
These are big investors.
Big, what do you call them? Funds,
Yep,
basically.
yep,
And there's a few good pictures in this article.
yep.
And there's one of them that I liked. It said, "Clean coal is a dirty lie."
Yeah, well, yeah, and the investors, you know, this is something that's, we've talked about Ceres, the organization that's
Yes.
in Boston.
Yes.
I think they've got about 20 or 30 trillion dollars, but this is a different organization.
These are like trust funds and
Yeah, well, Ceres is-
state funds.
Yep.
And yeah.
Ceres is an organization that goes around to not just investors, but all kinds of companies like Coca-Cola and GM, and says, look, climate change is going to affect your bottom line. Sustainable practices will also affect your bottom line and improve it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you operate a business sustainably, you're likely to see your profits go up.
Well, this is just exactly what I'm about to say. It came
Yeah.
from the article. The White House endorsed event seems to be out of step with the wider conference, where
Yes.
green campaigners are likely to be cheered by the news that investors with around $32 trillion of assets are calling for greater action on climate change and an end to coal as a source of energy.
Yeah.
This is not what Trump wanted to hear.
No, it's not. But you know, Trump hears what he wants to hear, and he doesn't hear anything else, I think.
I think you're right. Something close to that's going on.
Okay, we are up to an item from STV News. I don't know what STV is, but it does have a good picture.
Scottish something or other.
Is it?
And we got it, I think so.
Okay.
And we got a picture coming up here.
Well, yeah,
And
that makes
picture
sense.
looks like it's local. That
Scottish, that does look like it could be Scottish countryside. Scotland, by the way, was once very
I
heavily
was thinking that
forested.
was ocean. Yeah, it is. It's land.
And yeah, Scotland used to be covered by forest, and the forest was almost all cut down to supply firewood to places in England.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
And that
I'm
was
all
before
surprised.
coal. That was like that started
Long time
a
ago.
long time, 400 years ago. Okay.
Well, it's this historic month as wind power meets 109% of energy demands in Scotland.
In Scotland. November has been hailed as a historic month after over 100% of Scotland's electricity demands were met by wind power for the first time. Wind production last month broke previous records by generating enough energy for nearly 6 million Scottish homes. Now, I should tell everybody, there aren't 6 million Scottish homes. There's less than 3 million. But it was
6
100
million is kind of a figure they picked up to
yeah.
give you an idea.
To give you an idea. But what happened here was wind power, not renewable power, wind power.
Just wind power.
Just wind power provided 109% of the electricity for all of the country, which means industry, heating, everything. Everything that they need that is electricity. And that...
Well, this is significant because they've been playing games with 98, 97%, you know, and
Yes.
now it's gone over 100.
It's gone over 100. If you include, I don't know what the figure is, but clearly if you include solar power, which they do have a little bit of, hydropower, which they have a fair amount of,
Yeah, they got a lot of hydro.
you know, we're starting to get to a point where clearly it's going to be well over 109% from renewable energy. So Scotland is getting all of its energy and it's exporting energy to other parts of the UK.
Well, for 20 out of 30 days, production outstripped demand. And
Yeah.
28 out of the 30 days meant over 100% of household electricity requirements.
Yes.
So again, this is a number.
Yeah.
But it's a good number.
Yep. Okay, should we go on?
Okay, yeah, we got a little bit more
We
here
have
about Exxon.
We have this item is from Climate Home.
Exxon knows renewables are cheaper, even if Trump doesn't.
Well, there you
they
go.
have known this for a long time.
Oh yeah, they have.
That's what I said before. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth.
Yes. At COP22, 24, the Trump administration may be touting coal and gas as energy of the future. It's bizarre. It's like my slide rule is the computer of the future. It uses no electricity. It's clearly what we want. It's okay. Manual typewriters, they're perfect. You can take them anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't need electricity.
Use any energy.
Okay, at COP24, the Trump administration may be touting coal and gas as the energy of the future, but leading U.S. energy companies are doubling down on renewable energy. One large corporate buyer is embracing the benefits of renewables, and that is the oil major ExxonMobil.
Well, we've talked about them in the past, and they have been well aware of what's been going on for a long time.
Long time.
But they haven't been publicizing it.
No.
But here it is, where they're investing in renewables, not to make money, but to save money.
Yeah.
They're using the renewables to power their own processes.
Right. Right. Okay, should we continue?
Well, there's a couple of quick takeaways here.
Do it.
To date, over 150 of the world's most influential companies have committed to source 100% renewable electricity.
Yep.
That's a significant statement.
And now we've got over 100 communities in the United States, many of which are large cities in that same category.
These companies, which include auto giant General Motors and the world's biggest company by revenue, which is Walmart, are now creating a demand of over 184 terawatt hours of renewable electricity annually. Now that's more than enough to power the entire New York State. A significant amount of energy.
Okay.
And they're also providing a source of finance for these renewables.
Right. Okay, we are up to
Moving along.
Tuesday, December 11th, with an item from the Bober Times, B-O-B-R. And I had two good pictures for this article. The other one I liked better, but I wanted to show people that there's actually a city involved.
I got to get that picture up, don't I?
You do.
Yeah, here we go.
The other one was a very highly painted wagon being drawn by oxen, and I thought it was just beautiful.
Well, it's interesting. This is a photograph, but it looks like a painting.
It does.
And that's San Jose in Costa Rica, which kind of surprised me. I would not have expected to see such a big modern city. But why not?
Why not?
Why not? Costa Rica is already 300 days of living on renewable energy.
Costa Rica broke its own record for running entirely on renewable energy in 2017, when the country managed to hold on to its environmentally friendly electricity for 299 days. In 2018, that record has been broken, as Costa Rica has run 300 days without using any fossil fuels.
And 2018 is not over.
And it's not over, that's right.
And by the way, Bober, you said it's from the Bober Times.
Yeah.
Bober is named after Bobrovitsa, Ukraine. It's a town near Kiev.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know
I couldn't
that.
figure out, Bober,
So
that's unusual.
You looked it up. Well, I looked at it and I thought, I'll bet you that's an acronym for something in Central America.
No, it's a town. It's a town in Ukraine.
In Ukraine. Good for you.
99% of the electricity that Costa Rica produces is by ecological methods. The largest contribution comes from hydro.
Yes.
At 78%.
Right.
They've been doing hydro for a long time.
They've been doing hydro for a long time.
Wind and geothermal provide 10%, and biomass and solar only 1%. So there's a big potential for solar.
Well, historically, Costa Rica has been a country that had a lot of rain. So they've been dependent on hydro, and they have not been terribly dependent on solar. I mean, just look at that sky.
Yeah.
Look at that sky. But here's the problem. Central America is in a drought that has been going on for years. And that's one of the big reasons why we've got this caravan of immigrants, is because people are leaving Central America because of the drought. They can't eat. They haven't got any food.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to build a wall and keep them all out.
Keep them away. That makes a lot of sense.
I think what we should do is spend all that money for that wall building a different wall.
One around Trump.
one around Mar-a-Lago. It might ruin the view, but you know. Okay,
Okay, this is an interesting article.
from CNN.
This is from CNN, and it does have a video, which
Good.
I will mention when we get
Yeah,
to the end.
okay.
Climate change is not only influencing extreme weather events, it is causing them.
This is important. Extreme weather events that spanned the globe in 2017 have been directly linked to, and in some cases were even caused by, continued warming of the planet by human influence, according to a report from the American Meteorological Society. Now, what this is telling us is, in the past, we have been told over and over again, you can't tell whether a specific event it was caused by climate change.
And now they're getting evidence to back it up that
Yep,
it is.
and then they got to a point where they said, well, we can tell you this event, some percentage of the damage was due to climate change, and that started a couple of years ago. Now they're saying, we can show you that some events are actually happening because of climate change.
Well, the video is worth looking at. Matter of fact, I think I've seen it already on another CNN.
They do that.
It's called Undeniable Climate Change Facts. It's about a little under 2 minutes.
Yep.
In addition, in this article, there's a lot of pictures. If you like pictures, it's worth just looking at, picking
Yep.
up the article and looking at the pictures. There's
Yep.
about 20 of them there.
Okay. Now we've got to keep moving because we've only got about 9 minutes. We have a.
Well, we're on Tuesday already.
Yeah, we are. We
almost
have
Tuesday.
4 items.
Let's see.
Clean Technica has given us this next one, and there's a picture here too. Although the picture's boring. It's a boring picture. You don't have to put it up.
Well, that's Luxembourg, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't have expected a traffic jam like that in Luxembourg.
Well.
But Luxembourg is making all public transportation free.
This is really interesting. The government of Luxembourg says beginning in 2020, it will make public transportation free for all. The move is expected to reduce congestion in Luxembourg City, which is said to be among the worst in Europe. It will have additional benefit of reducing air pollution. I went through Luxembourg once, and I didn't realize it until I looked at my passport the following day and saw that it had been stamped at the border. Luxembourg is not big.
No, it's a small country, just under 1,000 square miles.
Yep.
It's sitting between Belgium, Germany, and France.
Yep.
You could, as you have done, drive right through it.
Yeah.
And not even know you've been
I was on a train.
It's home to less than 600,000 people.
Yep.
But every workday, some 400,000 people stream into Luxembourg City in the morning and then rush home in the afternoon.
Yep.
200,000 of them commute to Luxembourg from one of the surrounding countries.
Yep.
Okay? People often spend more time getting to and from their jobs than they do actually working. So what they're doing here is by making public transportation free, they're hoping that people will take public transportation,
Which I think a lot will.
instead of taking cars like you're seeing
Yeah.
there in the picture.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, December 12th, and we have an item here from BBC.
This is a nice picture.
It's
I
a
like
nice
this
picture that's coming up.
Yeah, this is a good picture.
This is an interesting picture from one point of view, which is that because of the way JPEG files are put together, this thing is tiny. It's like 10 kilobytes. 17 kilobytes, something
I
like
don't
that.
think it's a real picture. It's the Northern Lights, but I think that deer is a cutout.
Well, it might be. I can't tell you you're wrong. So what do you got here?
Arctic reindeer numbers crash by half.
The population of wild reindeer or caribou in the Arctic crashed by more than half in the last 2 decades, according to a report released at the meeting of the American Geophysical Research Union. Weather patterns and vegetation changes are making the Arctic tundra much less hospitable for reindeer.
Well, the reindeer and the caribou are the same thing,
Yes.
but if they're wild, they call them caribou.
And if they're not wild, they're reindeer.
Yeah, and they're used as a beast of burden in
Well,
Lapland, among other
Yeah,
places.
they pull around sleighs. But here, what's happening is it's warmer, so the insects survive, and they eat the
Less
grass.
food,
There's
more
less food.
insects.
Yeah, they eat the grass that the reindeers, or the plants, I should say, because reindeer have other things. I
And
think they
there's
eat a
an
lot of lichens.
interesting video here, too.
Yep.
The Arctic report 2017 showed that sea ice more than 4 years old has largely disappeared in the Arctic.
Yeah,
It's only a little bit more than a minute,
yeah,
and it shows the sea ice disappearing.
it sure
Kind
does.
of scary.
It is. Our next item is from Futurism.
Replacing nuclear with renewables would save France $44.5 billion.
The French government just announced a plan to power 95% of the country with solar and wind energy by 2060. And by doing so, the government would spend about $44.5 billion less than it would if it maintained its current energy infrastructure.
Now, that's a significant saving.
If they dropped 10% of that in my direction,
You'd accept it happily, huh?
I'd throw a party that would invite the entire state.
Well, in order to get there, the government would need to cancel plans to construct 15 new nuclear power plants
Yes.
that are in the
That was
pipeline.
15 at 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead replace its aging nuclear reactors with renewable infrastructure over the next several decades.
My prediction is that's exactly what they're going to do.
Well, it makes sense economically.
Yep.
France could increase its dependence on solar and wind energy over time. They don't have to do it all at once.
Yep.
Gradually shutting down nuclear plants to make room for renewables. It's cheaper than maintaining the status quo and replacing the aging nuclear plants with more modernized reactors, which is, I guess, is plan A.
Yes.
They're going to have to come up with a plan B, which is a better one. I think they will.
I think
the
they
money's
will.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're going to be saving money. I'm sure that appeals to them. Okay, our last
This is
item
the last item, yeah.
comes from Renews.
And we got a picture here too coming up.
Do we? We do. There
I
it
think
is.
we do.
We do. There it is.
There it is.
You've
Come
got
on,
it.
you.
You've got it up twice.
I got it on deck.
There you go.
Energy giants issue offshore power to gas plea.
Shell, Siemens, and TenneT called on the German government to tender an extra offshore wind power capacity specifically tied to hydrogen production. A study they commissioned found 900 megawatts of power-to-gas projects driven by offshore wind could be built between 2026 and 2030.
Well, what they're planning to do is they're getting wind power,
Yep,
okay, from the ocean,
yep,
okay. They're going to bring it to land.
yep,
They're going to use the electricity to make gas.
yes,
And they're going to put gas in a pipeline.
yeah.
Existing pipelines.
In existing natural gas pipelines.
Yep.
So that the gas will replace some percentage of the natural gas that is
Absolutely.
currently
That's
being
exactly
used.
right.
Now, hydrogen can be used for other things too, so it has multiple.
They may very well change their mind as to what they're going to do with it.
Right.
But this is their plan now.
Yep,
It makes sense. It's just another way of storing that energy.
yes. Okay,
That's
I
the last item.
think we are done for the day. And so that being the case, we should probably say, have a perfectly lovely week.
Adios.
Adios.